मनःपूर्वक स्वागत. माझं नाव सौ अलका साठे. आज मी तुम्हाला सर्कल या विषयाबद्दल माहिती सांगणार आहे. आता आपण बघूया ह्या आकृत्या. कोणकोणत्या आकृत्या आहेत? बँगल्स, डिश, प्रेशर कुकर. What is the shape of these objects? Correct. It is circular in shape. Now let us see different objects and the different parts of the circle. आता ही एक ऍक्टिव्हिटी आपल्याला करायची आहे बरं का विद्यार्थ्यांनो. या आकृतीमध्ये पहा, एका बिंदूशी एका विद्यार्थ्याने खिळा धरलेला आहे. त्या खिळ्याला एक दोरी लावली आहे आणि दोरीच्या दुसऱ्या टोकाला अजून एक खिळा आहे. हा विद्यार्थी तो खिळा घेऊन सर्क्युलर फॅशन मध्ये पळतो आहे. तयार झालेली आकृती सर्कल आहे. या सर्कलचा सेंटर पी आहे. पी हा सेंटर आहे. जेव्हा तुम्ही वर्तुळ काढता तेव्हा कंपासचं धातूचं टोक पी या बिंदूवर ठेवून पेन्सिलीने वर्तुळ काढता. Now look at this figure. There is a point in the center of the circle and any point on the circle forms a segment with point C. This segment is called radius of the circle. मला आता सांगा की असे किती रेडियाय तुम्हाला काढता येतील? You can draw as many radii as you can. आता ह्या आकृतीकडे पहा. या आकृतीमध्ये वर्तुळावर कोणतेही दोन बिंदू घेऊन त्यापासून सेगमेंट्स तयार झालेली आहेत. या तीन सेगमेंट्सची लांबी मोजा बरं. काय आढळतं? QR is also a segment. What is the difference between the other two chords and this QR? You can tell me that QR is a diameter of the circle. Now, when you have measured the length of all these segments, what did you find? You found that diameter QR is the longest chord. Now let us see what is the relation between diameter and the radius of the circle. Here, the segment passing through the center of the circle is called the diameter. For this, let us do one activity. Take a card sheet and cut a circle of it. Fold the circle into half. Again fold the circle into quarter. What did you see? The diameter is twice the radius. That is why diameter is equal to 2 into radius. Similarly, we can say that diameter is the longest chord. Now let us see one more property of the circle. The segment increased to form a line. This line, which passes through any 2 points of the circle, is called a secant of the circle. Now when the line touches the circle in one and only one point, it is called the tangent of the circle. Now tangent is always perpendicular at the outer end of the radius. Here in the diagram you will see that PQ is perpendicular to the tangent. How many tangents can you draw from one point on the circle? You can draw one and only one tangent from the point on the circle. Now, if you draw the line which is at a shorter distance than the radius, then it is not a tangent. It is called a secant of the circle. If you draw a line which is away from the circle, that is, the distance of this line is greater than the radius of the circle, then it is neither tangent nor a secant. It is outside the circle. Now, in this figure, you will see that line XY is a tangent at point Q. Now, if point Q is outside the circle, how many tangents can you draw to the given circle? Look at the diagram. This diagram will tell you that you can draw two tangents to the circle from the point outside the circle. In this diagram, QA and QB are two tangents drawn to the given circle. Here, if you measure the lengths of the line segments, remember that you have to measure the distance of the tangent segments. This figure tells us that in a circle, if you draw a tangent at point Q and you draw a secant QR from the same point Q, then this is called the angle between the tangent and the secant. What is the difference between the circles which we saw and the circles which you are seeing now? In these two circles, the center of the circle is same, but the radii of the circles are different. These type of circles are called as concurrent circles. These circles are little different than the previous ones. These circles are touching circles. Two circles touch each other from outside. There is a common tangent between them. The centers of the circle are P and Q. The radius of the circle with center P is R1 and the center Q is R2. आता जर आपल्याला दोन केंद्रांमधलं अंतर काढायचं असेल तर काय करावं लागेल? We have to add the distance between P and Q. The distance is equal to R1 plus R2. There are other types of circle which are touching each other from inside. They have a common tangent. If you have to find out the distance between the centers च्या त्रिज्यांमधून जर वजाबाकी केली तरच आपल्याला या दोन केंद्रांमधलं अंतर मिळेल. म्हणजेच डिस्टन्स PQ is equal to R1 minus R2. आता ह्या दोन वर्तुळांकडे पहा. त्या दोन वर्तुळांच्या केंद्रांमधलं अंतर हे त्यांच्या त्रिज्येच्या बेरजेपेक्षा जास्त आहे. म्हणून ही दोन वर्तुळे एकमेकांना टच करत नाहीत. They are called as separate circles. What will happen if the distance between the centers of the circle, that is distance PQ, is less than R1 plus R2? They will intersect each other. When two circles intersect each other, they intersect in 2 points. They are called as intersecting circles. Now let us see one more property of the circle. Now you know what is called as secant. In this circle, there is a secant AB. This secant divides the circle in 2 different parts of the circle. These 2 parts of the circle are called arcs of the circle. Now children, see here that AXB is smaller than AYB. AXB arc is called as minor arc, whereas arc AYB is called as major arc. If we draw the angle by taking the secant AB in both arcs, measure these angles. Angle AXB is the angle formed in the minor arc. This angle is always obtuse angle, and the angle formed in the major arc is always acute angle. That is, angle AYB is less than 90 degrees. So, you have measured and verified this property. Right angles. A diameter forms a secant also. Then the secant divides the circle into 2 equal parts. These 2 equal parts are called the semicircle. In these 2 semicircles, if you take any point in these semicircles, then the angles formed are always right angles, and that is why angle inscribed in the semicircle is always right angle. Now suppose this point C is inside the circle. What do you think will happen? The diameter subtends the angle at C. If you measure this angle is always obtuse angle. Now if this point C is outside the circle, then what will happen? This angle formed when point C is outside the circle, then it is always an acute angle. मुलांनो, या दोन्ही गुणधर्मांची सिद्धता तुम्हाला स्वतः लिहिता आली पाहिजे. फक्त मी तुम्हाला एक हिंट देते की त्रिकोणाचा बाह्यकोन त्याच्या अंतरकोनांच्या बेरजे एवढा असतो. या गुणधर्माचा या ठिकाणी उपयोग करावा लागेल. लिहा बरं सिद्धता. आता आपण आणखीन एका गुणधर्माचा अभ्यास करूया. अदर प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ द सर्कल. सेंट्रल अँगल, इन्स्क्राइब्ड अँगल and intercepted arc. If you take any 2 points on the circle and join them to the center of the circle, then the angle formed is called as central angle. हा कोन वर्तुळाच्या केंद्राशी तयार होतो म्हणून त्याला सेंट्रल अँगल असं म्हणतात. This central angle has the measure equal to the measure of the arc. If the measure of angle QPR is 70 degrees, then measure of the arc QXR is also 70 degrees. Now you will see that the other part which is formed will have angle equal to 360 minus 70. Calculate this angle, and this angle is on the other side of the central angle. Now, what is called as inscribed angle and the intercepted arc? If you subtract 70 degrees from 360, the answer will be 290 degrees, and that is why the measure of the other arc will be 290 degrees. Now let us see what is inscribed angle. Look at these diagrams. In diagram first, point C is inside the circle. In the second diagram, point E is outside the circle. And in the third diagram, point C is on the circle. So, when the angle is formed with its vertex at the circle, this angle is called as inscribed angle. This inscribed angle intercepts the arc which is AXB. Let us see the property of inscribed angle and the intercepted arc. Here we can draw 3 diagrams regarding this. पहिल्या डायग्राम मध्ये बघा काय आहे. पहिल्या डायग्राम मध्ये डायमीटरच्या दोन्ही बाजूला 2 सेगमेंट्स काढलेली आहेत. म्हणून inscribed angle formed ACB is on both sides of the diameter. In the second figure, the diameter itself is one of the sides of the angle. And in the third figure, you will see that both sides of the angle are on one side of the diameter. You can prove that inscribed angle is always half the measure of the intercepted arc. You can see the proof of this in your textbook. Now let us take one example. In this example, the inscribed angle given is 50 degrees. You have to find out the measure of its intercepted arc. We have seen the property that inscribed angle is always half the intercepted arc. That is why the arc intercepted by this angle is 100 degrees. Now let us take another example. In this example, a circle is drawn and a quadrilateral is also drawn. In this figure, angle B is 75 degrees. Now you have to find out the arc intercepted by angle B. Here, the arc will be twice the inscribed angle. That is why it is equal to 75 into 2, which is equal to 150 degrees. Now let us see another example. Here, a tangent and a secant is drawn. The angle is formed by a tangent and a secant. The angle formed is BAC. Here, angle BAC is an acute angle. In the next diagram, angle BAC is 90 degrees. AP is a diameter and a secant, a tangent is drawn at point A. Therefore, angle formed is right angle. Angle BAC in this diagram is obtuse angle. So in these three diagrams, we have seen that acute angle, right angle and the obtuse angle is formed. The property regarding tangent and secant is that angle formed by tangent and secant is always half the measure of the arc formed by this angle. Now let us see one example. Here, angle DAB is given as 70 degrees. Now what is the measure of the arc formed by this angle? You will see that the measure of the arc is 140 degrees. In this figure, you will see one more angle which is drawn. This angle is drawn in the other segment. This angle formed is also half the intercepted arc. The intercepted arc is 140 degrees. Therefore, the angle which is inscribed has measure as 70 degrees. Now what conclusion you can draw here? That the angle formed by tangent and secant is equal to the angle formed in the alternate segment. Now if you observe the next diagram, you will see here that angle RPS is the angle formed between tangent and secant. Now can you tell me that which angle is congruent to angle RPS? Observe the diagram and write your answer in your notebook. Here, one more property is given. Inscribed angles are formed. How many inscribed angles are formed here? 2. In which arc they are formed? They are formed in the same arc. जर तुम्हाला हा गुणधर्म पडताळून पाहायचा असेल तर हे दोन्ही कोन कोनमापकाच्या साहाय्याने मोजून पहा. You will see that these two angles inscribed in the same arc are congruent. If you want to write the proof of it, then you can write the proof. Here, the angle ADC and ABC are inscribed in the same arc. Angle ADC is equal to 1/2 major arc AXC. Similarly, angle ABC is also equal to 1/2 major arc AXC. Now look at the right hand side of the equation. The right hand side of both the equations is same, and by transitivity property the left hand side also is same, and therefore angle ADC is equal to angle ABC. That is why angles inscribed in the same arc are congruent. A quadrilateral is formed in the circle. That is, 4 vertices of the quadrilateral lie on the circle. This type of quadrilateral is called as cyclic quadrilateral. The property of this cyclic quadrilateral is that opposite angles are always supplementary. That means the sum of them is equal to 180 degrees. Here, if one angle is given, you can find out its opposite angle. One example is given. Read the example and try to solve that example. There is one more example given. ABCD is a quadrilateral which is inscribed in the circle. Here, measure of angle A is given as Here, quadrilateral ABCD is inscribed in the circle. Measure angle A is equal to 75 degrees. In this diagram, AB is congruent to AD and BC is congruent to DC. We have to find out angle C, angle B and angle D. How will you do that? The construction is given in this diagram. Now can you think of solving this problem? Now I will give you 2 or 3 hints. Here you can think that the opposite angles of cyclic quadrilateral are supplementary. Therefore, angle C is equal to 180 minus 75. What is the measure of angle C? 105 degrees. Now to find out angle B and D, we have joined B and D. The triangles formed are isosceles triangles. The property of isosceles triangles is that the base angles of isosceles triangle are always congruent. So find out the measures of these two angles and then add them together to get angle B and angle D. You will see that measure of angle B will be 90 degrees and measure of angle D also will be 90 degrees. Write the proof of this in your notebook. Now we will see the properties of the chords. How many chords are drawn in this diagram? Yes, 2 chords are drawn in this diagram. These 2 chords form a central angle at the center of the circle. Measure these chords. What do you see? These 2 chords are equal in length. Now measure the central angles formed by them. You will see that both angles formed by congruent chords at the center are equal. That is why we can say the property that the 2 congruent chords form equal central angles. Now if the chords are of different length, what will happen? Think about it and write your answer. Now we will see the properties of the chords when they intersect each other inside the circle. मुलांनो, या 2 chords एकमेकांना सर्कलच्या आतमध्ये छेदले आहेत. किती कोन तयार होतील? 4 कोन तयार होतात. If you have to find out the measure of one angle, the measures of intercepted arcs should be given. The property is like this. Measure of angle BOC is equal to half the measure of sum of the arcs. Here the arcs formed are AXD and BYC, or it is also called as CYB. Now let us see one example based on this. The example is this. If the measure of arc BYC is 51 and measure of AXD is 25, find out the angle AOC. मुलांनो, AOC कोन काढण्यासाठी कोणत्या कोनाचं माप काढावं लागेल? विचार करा. कोन BOC चं माप काढावं लागेल. Now this angle is formed by the intersection of 2 chords. Therefore, the measure of this angle is equal to half the sum of the arcs formed by these angles. Substitute the values. Then you will get that major angle COB will be equal to 38 degrees. आता कोन AOC आणि कोन COB हे लिनियर पेअरचे अँगल्स आहेत, म्हणजेच दे आर सप्लिमेंटरी. To find angle AOC, we have to subtract 38 from 180. करा बरं वजाबाकी आणि कोन AOC चं माप काढा. या ठिकाणी दोन chords AB and DC. They are intersecting outside the circle. Point O is outside the circle. So, angle AOC will be equal to difference of the measure of their arcs and multiplied by 1/2. So, measure angle AOC is equal to half into bracket measure arc AXD minus measure arc BYC. Now if you have to find one thing out of these three, you will be given two measurements and then you can find out the rest of it. We have seen the property regarding the angles. Now let us see the property of the chords when they intersect inside the circle. The length of the chords we know. Now here, when two chords intersect each other inside the circle, the segments formed by each chord form a rectangle. The areas of rectangles formed are always equal. That is, product of AO into OB is equal to product DO into OC. If these two chords intersect each other outside the circle, what will happen? The property is true for it also. That means AB and DC, both chords intersect each other outside the circle at O, and therefore OA into OB is equal to OD into OC. मुलांनो, या ठिकाणी नेहमी चूक होण्याची शक्यता असते, म्हणून लक्षात ठेवताना पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरसेक्शन पासून कॉर्डचा एक पॉइंट आणि पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरसेक्शन पासून कॉर्डचा दुसरा पॉइंट यांचा गुणाकार हा पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरसेक्शन पासून दुसऱ्या कॉर्डचा एक बिंदू आणि पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरसेक्शन पासून कॉर्डचा दुसरा बिंदू यांचा गुणाकार नेहमी समान असतो, हे लक्षात ठेवा. आता एक टँजंट आणि एक सिकॅन्ट यांचा पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरसेक्शन इज आउटसाइड द सर्कल. Then what is the property of it? The property is that PT is the tangent and AB is the chord. If it is extended, it forms a secant. The point of intersection is T. Therefore, PT square is equal to TA into TB. Now observe this figure. In this figure, two chords intersect each other. There is a tangent at A. Now you have to see the figure properly. What is given? AP is equal to PX is equal to XY. PQ is equal to 1. QZ is equal to 8. Find the value of AX. Now to find this, first consider that tangent AP and secant PZ intersect each other. From this, you can find out the distance AP. Distance AP will come as 3 units. Now you have to see that two chords intersect each other inside the circle. Use the property of intersection of two chords. Substitute the values and find out the value of AX. You will get the value of AX as 4 units. Now the proof is given. Please observe that proof and try to understand it. Let us see the property of chord and the center of the circle. Here, the center of the circle is P and the chord is AB. From the center, a perpendicular is drawn to the chord. You all know that the chord is bisected by the perpendicular drawn center of the circle. So, we know that the perpendicular drawn from the center of the circle bisects the chord. If the length of chord AB is 4, then AP will be equal to 2. If the midpoint of the chord and the center of the circle is joined, then what will happen? What is the converse of the previous theorem? The converse of the previous theorem is that if the midpoint of the chord and the center of the circle forms a segment, then it is perpendicular to the chord. Now the proof of this can be given in different ways. You have learned the locus. From the locus also you can prove this. If you join the radii, then you know that the center of the circle is equidistant from the end points of the chords. And when a point is equidistant from the end points of the chord, it always lies on the perpendicular bisector of the chord. And that is why this segment is perpendicular to the chord. Now let us solve one example based on this. O is the center of the circle. OS is the perpendicular drawn on the chord PQ. The length of the chord is 24. We have to find the radius of the circle. Think about it. Which property will you use? The property you have to use is the perpendicular drawn from the center of the circle bisects the chord. Now here the chord will be bisected and each segment will be 12 centimeter. Now here what kind of triangle is formed? The triangle formed is a right angle triangle. When there is a right angle triangle, by which theorem you will find out its hypotenuse? By Pythagoras theorem, you can find out the hypotenuse of the triangle. The hypotenuse of the triangle is the radius of the circle. Calculate it. What is your answer? The answer will be 13 centimeter. And therefore, the radius of the circle is 13 centimeter. See another figure. Here, two chords are drawn. Measure its length. What is the length of these two chords? Both the chords of the circle are congruent. They are equal in length. Now measure the perpendicular distance of both chords from the center. What did you find? You will find that congruent chords are equidistant from the center of the circle. Now, think about it when the chords are of different length. If the chords are of different length, what is the distance of them from the center of the circle? The chord which is long is at a shorter distance from the center of the circle, and the chord which is smaller is at a longer distance from the center of the circle. Here, AB is longer than DC, and that is why AB is at a shorter distance than DC from the center of the circle. So, we will see the example based on this. Look at this diagram. In this diagram, we have to find out the length of the chord AB. Given things are chord CD is equal to 24 centimeter in length, and the radius of the circle is 13 centimeter. Observe the figure and find out the distance of the chord AB. Here you have to use Pythagoras theorem twice. When you use it 2 times, you will see that 5, 12 and 13 is the triplet of Pythagoras.